Hey, welcome to Love Club. We're both exhausted edition. This will be a fun one.
This is a lesson in show up and just do your best.
Yeah,
just show up and do your best.
You got to. Alli just moved to Dallas like 3 seconds ago, and I've been working nonstop. Well, I got a colonoscopy on Monday, drove to New York on Tuesday, worked all day Wednesday, have worked all day up until this point on Thursday. So
yeah. So what's it like going from a super nature-oriented environment in Maine to New York City? How is that on your body?
I had anxiety about it. It's because of COVID and just like nostalgia. And I'm staying near the apartment where my husband and I lived for a while in Brooklyn and, our old haunts. So I did some emotional cutting and drove around the neighborhood, which was mostly nostalgic and not that sad.
Yeah.
But it only made me miss my dog, really.
I know. The dogs are the hardest.
They're hard to let go, man. But it was so funny. It's like Brooklyn feels really good. Like LA was not feeling great to you or me when either of us left. And like Brooklyn feels like a block party. Like the vibe here feels good. And it's like
that's what I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels good. And I forget, and this is I think how I got sucked into New York for so long and how I like totally let it override my body, because the energy here as a reflector, I'm so sensitive to energy. The energy, New York's energy is like my favorite drug. Oh, I'm already like, and my body, like I've been here since Tuesday evening and I'm like so friggin' tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it feels good. It feels magical. I like, I'm working, I'm seeing people safely. I'm, experiencing Brooklyn in a safe way. And it just feels like really empowering. And like, I'm in my life again. I was like, oh, this is me. I'm here again. Like, it felt like some weird, like a lot of earlier this year has felt like a weird, just like not myself. Like I feel
like sweatpant vortex. That's what I've been calling it.
No, like Brooklyn feels like home to me more than anywhere else, I realized. And the sad thing is I don't think I can live here. I don't want to live here. But like if anything feels like home and feels like me, it's Brooklyn.
I've always felt that about New York. Like when I would come see you when I was in LA and I'd be like, I'm moving back tomorrow. And everybody like, you're going to be fine. You always say this. Oh, that's so good. I'm glad that you're giving New York some of your love and magic.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Yeah. How's Dallas? What's going on? How's the transition?
Oh, wow. Okay, so we left Los Angeles with a 4.6 earthquake to wake us up in the morning and then drove through flames. So
well, if that's not an exit, I don't know what is.
It's pretty poetic, and I'm grateful for that in terms of creativity. But, I'm really thankful for my dad. He came and he helped me. Well, actually, I was in urgent care for mercury heavy metal poisoning on Thursday night, getting a steroid shot in my butt, which are awesome. I was doing like just holistic, went to see like our NET, like holistic doctor in LA. And that was great, but I woke up the next day and was like, I'm about to have to drive a U-Haul truck across the United States with my dad with my car in tow. Like I should probably like get some Eastern assistance. So that was like a cool experience. And then while I was at urgent care, my dad called me and our U-Haul reservation canceled just because LA was overbooked because so many U-Haul trucks are leaving and none are coming back. So I had to like change his flight and fly him into the John Wayne Airport in Orange County. And then we found a U-Haul truck there. And then he drove it up Saturday morning and we like couldn't breathe. So we're wearing our masks because of the air quality in LA, and our phones were blasting like Amber alerts for health. So it was like, make sure you're wearing a mask. The air quality is toxic. Be careful. And then we got in the car and drove. And I just got here on Monday night. Moved into my apartment the next day, unpacked that night, and feel so grateful. I'm so happy.
It's a beautiful space.
It's a beautiful space. I feel really grateful. So that's like a big lesson. And like I've been working hard energetically to level up. And when you just keep consistent and practice and be mindful, then eventually your material outside physical world will match that. And sometimes you have to let go of the past to let that level up. And I think that's a big lesson I've learned is like, leveling up as possible for all of us, but it takes risk, it takes letting go, and it takes trust. So
Absolutely.
that's where we are.
It's pretty amazing just to hear how you would talk about, because you had a fine studio apartment in LA, but you were sort of like, this space doesn't serve me anymore. I feel like I've outgrown it. I want something bigger. I want something nicer. And the language you were using around it, all of, like, since I moved to LA in the first half of the year, it's just amazing to see where you ended up, because it's completely a reflection of exactly what you spoke into reality.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, you have to be careful with your words, but I think you did all of the, exercises. We're trying not to say work anymore until we get a better word, but the self-love exercises that you needed to do to back that up, so you had that belief system. So, it's one thing to say, like, I deserve this, or I want this, or I want this mansion, or I want this, but if you don't truly believe it, it will probably not come to fruition anytime soon. Like, you really have to authentically believe and have intention behind what you were saying, and you did. So it is really amazing to see you. I feel so excited for you.
Thank you, Lianna. And I just think today, given that we're both going through a lot, I just want to say thank you for showing up. And this is a part of the love practice that Lianna and I are doing. And one other thing that I wanted to bring up is how much Healthy by Lianna's lifestyle practice has seriously been the most important tool through this transition. So, I did Lianna's detox in August and then stayed on it for 20 days. And then when I got mercury and lead and arsenic poisoning from drinking sink water in St. John, U.S. Virgin Islands, which happens sometimes, and got attacked by sand fleas. So my body was having allergic reaction to both those things. My doctor in the hospital happened to be from St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands. So it was like a really funny full circle, and she was like laughing, and she like really helped me get through it. But she, as my doctor, was like, you really need to be very conscious of your diet. She was like, avoid sugar, avoid gluten, avoid dairy, anything that's inflammatory, since I was purging these metals through my skin and this reaction through my skin and our lungs, which are directly associated with our skin. It was like toxic air. So it was making it harder for my body to heal itself. So she directed me straight to the power of food as medicine. And I just want you to speak on that. Like, when we're going through these huge transitions, like I was also moving LA for the first time in years and years and years and years. I had just like had a really intense, powerful connection with an old friend, went to the U.S. Virgin Islands, came back, had heavy metal poisoning, and was driving to Dallas to move into my brand new apartment, setting up renter's insurance on Route 66. So what helped me get through that and stay calm and balanced and focused and connected to myself was I was eating our 80-20 rule, but I was like fully on the sugar detox. So I just had like a bag of cashews, blueberries, some Mary's Gone crackers, and ate only grilled chicken, vegetables, and water and sparkling water that whole time. And if you want to scientifically back up why that's so vital, I would love for you to touch on that.
Yeah. So essentially, anytime inflammation is sort of the root cause of a lot of problems in our body, and food can either fan the flames of inflammation in your body or cool them off. And, meditation's another thing that's helpful. Exercise to an extent is also helpful, but food is incredibly powerful in terms of either cooling or fanning the flames. And whenever you're detoxing, you especially want to, the more anti-inflammatory, the better, especially greens. You want lots and lots of greens. Those help detoxification. Lots of water. But yeah, anytime.
And then the greens versus the green juice was something.
Well, you want that fiber. You want that fiber to pull out those toxins out of your system. Anytime you sort of take food from its natural state and turn it into something else, even like nut butter or juice, it operates differently in your body. Our bodies are so perfectly aligned to understand what to do with food. Food truly is medicine. Food is building, if you think about it, what you're putting in your system is building blocks for your cells. So every time you're eating, and again, we don't need to get crazy with this, but it's like, do you want to create health or do you want to create disease? And yes, if you're generally a healthy person, of course have pizza, of course have a tequila shot, of course have some ice cream sometimes. Like, it's not going to be in that second. But if you're already compromised, food is such beautiful medicine, especially in addition to other medications. Like, going through Western medicine, like a lot of my clients who come to me have other comorbidities, have other problems, are overweight, or maybe on different kinds of antidepressants or SSRIs, or something's going on with their thyroid or their allergies, or they're on some kind of pharmaceutical for something. Working with me in this way and using food as medicine is only going to help the medication you're already taking, or in some best case scenarios, helps people get off of all of those. But
Right.
it's like you're setting yourself up to be healthy. So again, whenever you're compromised, whenever you're overly stressed, whenever things become more chaotic, I think it's easy to want to lean into drinking and eating poorly and drugs and all of those things. But truly, if you want to stay centered and grounded and connected in your brain, it's like you absolutely have to eat well. Like, that's the cornerstone we go back to. It's like sleep, movement, eating well. If you can just keep those consistent while the rest of your life is sort of flashing around you chaotically, it will keep you grounded in a way where you can move through that in a healthier, more centered way.
Right. And I think it just cleans out your channel and it calms it down so that all of a sudden, amidst chaos, you can listen and you can hear. Because what I've been really present to and observing lately is my intuition, because I've been really needing guidance from like my higher power and the higher power of the universe as I'm going through these like huge leaps of faith and change and new environments. And I realized my intuition is directly connected to listening. It's really, I just hear it. I hear the next step, and then from the next step, then I trust. So the eating clean has helped me stay connected in terms of being able to still clearly hear the guidance that I'm asking for through change.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Because we all have some sort of like claircognizance, clairaudience, clairvoyance. Like, people roll their eyes at that stuff, but like we all sort of have a knowing or a learning around that stuff. When you say you have a listening, I always am curious about this. When you hear things, do you like hear, like, is someone talking to you? Like, is it just like a knowing?
It's an imprint. I would say it's a lot like sorry, my phone just wanted to die. It's like almost like a whisper, or when you like hear something but it's not a voice,
right?
But then once it kind of whispers in, it imprints itself,
like you read it in your brain, like you
but it's not like a reading it, it's like Braille.
Interesting.
For the deaf. So it's like,
I'm always curious
I feel it, and then I feel it, and then that communicates to me.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain. Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you.
I know. I'm just always curious because mine feels like just like a knowing in my heart space, but it is sort of like speaking to me, but it doesn't feel like hearing.
Not
like
a voice.
People hear things.
I have worked with teachers who hear it.
Yeah,
it's loud and
I don't hear things. I like know them, and they're spoken to me from here.
Right. Yes. That makes sense.
And it was interesting because I was having this conversation with my dad, and we'll have to do a whole other session because I was telling him I was a healer, and like my experience with my healer recently, where I ended up kind of stumbling onto some past life trauma stuff that I was not trying to work on. That really took me off. It was very scary and crazy and just the craziest day of my life, honestly.
Right.
I was telling him, and he's not, I mean, he grew up religious, but he very much rejected that. And his, everything's based in science. He's not like overly spiritual or anything. And I just was explaining this phenomenon that happened to me that really caught me off guard. And it was so funny because he just was really listening and just like asking about my experiences. And I was talking to, I have a bodywork guy I've been working with who helps me with Reiki. And I've just been doing a lot of work on myself in Maine, sort of dealing with my divorce and really trying to get rid of a lot of my limitations around like, why don't I feel like I can build my business as as big as I want to? am I feeling small where I use my voice? Like there are areas where I don't feel confident, where I was like, I don't understand why that is. And they both were sort of like, I've been channeling so much more, especially this year. And it was funny because they're, both of them sort of were like, how does that work? And it's like, it's just so interesting to start to like open up and start to experience these, like the more you are quiet, take care of yourself, do the self-love practices that we talk about here, whatever they are to you, the more you find yourself opening up to this whole other array of senses that you have. And it's really beautiful because my bodywork healer was talking to me, because I talk a lot about how like I'm a little ashamed to talk about it, and it feels a little embarrassing and woo woo, and people won't take me seriously. And
oh yeah,
I grew up in a
I
house.
kept this really secret, honestly, until like now.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Like,
it's something that
my clients like know that we're operating on a certain level, but like I've never openly spoken about it probably before.
I don't, it depends on the client. Like if they're ready for it, I'll share it, but I don't feel the need to always.
Right.
But it's
Right.
so interesting. And he was so cute about it, because he was like, everyone has their own way of doing things. And he's like, the scientific method is really only like trying a certain way of doing things over and over and over and seeing if you're getting the same results. So he's like, if you're using like your gifts or your medicine in the same way with everyone, and you're continuing to see the same results, you're actually using the scientific method on your clients. And it just sort of like really empowered me. And he's like this older, amazing, wise man who's always like really trying to be like, stand in your power, you can do this, you have these gifts and all these, it's like very special. And again, something I sort of stumbled upon, but it's so interesting. And it just was so beautiful. And think about that big picture, because we all have these, but so many people aren't taught how to use them, don't trust them, don't know how to listen. And so much of what I feel like I'm doing, especially with women, because the basis of my work is self-connection. I'm connecting you to yourself. I'm connecting you to your knowing. Often it's through food and how to listen to your body, because that's a very easy way to learn to listen to and connect, to really hear those, reactions to things and understand them. And it's just so beautiful to sit and be empowering women to sort of like, because we all have these. And especially I work with a lot of moms, and they'll like, we often talk about health around their children. And I was like, listen, I'm not a mom yet. So I'm speaking a little out of turn here, but like, these are my thoughts. What do you think? Like, tap into that spidey sense. Like, where do you connect? Where's your intuition? Because if anything, moms are so intuitively connected to their children, and like, there's an instinct there. So it's like, let's start there. Let's start with food.
Yeah. And I have a question. So you were discussing with one of your healers past lives. How did that come up in your session, and how has it affected you actually going and doing work on that deep of a quantum physical level?
Well, he was amazing. I sort of ended up seeing him. He was recommended to me because I was having some like skin issues, and he does allergies. And it felt very divine. Like part of the reason I feel like I've been in Maine for so long, like he's really been helpful. And, and when I saw him, he had a very long intake form. He was talking about different kinds of things that he did. And he was like, one of the questions was list your trauma. And I was like, do you have 10 pages? Don't we all have that much? I don't know. But he defines trauma as something that still bothers you. And so we were doing allergy work. We're doing sort of muscle testing stuff. And he was like, listen, like reading your form, obviously, like you're moving through some emotional stuff around your divorce. I think it could help you with that. So we just initially started working a lot around all my pain around my divorce, and, understanding and processing what happened in that 10 years, and understanding how to like love someone from afar, and like redefine that relationship, and, what that means. And then it sort of flowed into like, I had another relationship briefly after my marriage ended, and like really understanding and tying up those loose ends. And then under that was like a lot of stuff around, it was like peeling layers of emotional stuff. Like, I was like a banana, but I guess there aren't tons of layers of banana peel, are there? But I know, I'm like lasagna. What are
Onion? Onion?
that's what I was looking
With an
for.
onion.
This is what happens when you're tired. I was like, there is a thing that you have layers, and there are
And then
many,
you peel them.
and it's not a pizza, right?
And it's referred to metaphorically always.
So I, so under it was like the marriage, the ex-boyfriend, the acting career, which I did for so long and held on to and love, and it's a part of me and will always be a part of me, but was holding on to in a way that wasn't serving me anymore, and really like showing me that I tend to hold on to stuff that's no longer serving me, and we let go of that. And then it was to the core of like a lot of my own limiting habits and beliefs and things that I'm always kind of pushing up against. I feel like they're like repetitive bad habits. And so much of those were around power and using my voice and trusting my ability to earn and, make a difference in the world. And when I was speaking those things to him a couple sessions ago, he goes, this comes up a lot with women I work with. He's like, it's very, especially in this culture, he's like, often it comes from our ancestors and, it's like in our DNA. And now there is science about like, past generational trauma being passed down in your genes. Like that is something people are looking into. It's not totally nuts. So I was like, okay. So we like felt around in it, and it really felt like my mom's part Filipino. She grew up in Asia. Her mom grew up in China. My mom's in the Philippines. Her grandma was in China. And, it really felt sort of Asian, not to stereotype things, but like I had a real sense that felt like it was like connected to my mom's mom. And then the next week, we kind of went deeper into that. And all of a sudden, I opened up literally what was sort of like in my mind, a glass box, because he essentially has you go into these memories or imaginings, and like you kind of let your subconscious go, and you sort of feel into these situations. And what's so beautiful is that you almost like feel the feelings up. So with the Mike stuff, it was like a lot of crying, a lot of really deep guttural crying, where it was like I was in these situations that I was picturing our perfect life together and mourning that, and just watching our kids grow up that we never had, stuff like that, where it was like I would never want to emotionally go there. But then once I did, it was like it freed me. So it was so interesting. It was like the first time I feel like I've ever like squeezed all the emotion out of myself, and then was able to like move on. And every week I sort of left feeling lighter and lighter. And then last week, I was in this imagining where I really opened up this box literally in this thing that just like flooded my body with a lot of really, really intense rage, which I never feel angry or rage or anything. And we tried to kind of find a place where it would come from in my life. And it was like this, I really got to a point where I was in it and being like, this isn't mine. And it like when that came to fruition, it was like the subjugation of women. I was feeling like rape, not having a voice, not having any autonomy, and just feeling like there were generations of, Filipino and Chinese and Asian women who for, years and years ago really didn't have a voice and here I was like afraid to use mine because, this is what's been passed down in our genes.
Yeah.
And it was like I had this moment where I had to like work through some really, really scary, amazingly difficult emotional stuff that was not mine, but was in my body. And it was like I've never thought about, or like whether I believed or didn't believe in past lives or any of this stuff or generational trauma, but like what I experienced, it was like, oh wow, this is totally blowing my mind. This is something I've never, ever, ever, ever experienced. And like, holy cow. And it was so difficult. It was physically taxing. All of it was like making my body, I'm like laying quietly on this massage table and like just having these convulsions with the emotional release happening, to which like my sternum was sore, my ribs in between my ribs were sore. Like I almost had a panic attack when I left. It was like I could run around my yard and like expel energy. It was just the most insane thing. But I truly, and it was so funny. I left and he was like, great session. I'll see you again next week. So totally normal to him. And here I was like,
another day at the office.
Literally, I was like, people come here on purpose to do this? Like, you've seen this before?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And it was so difficult and so insane. But I left, and I left feeling like I, let go of a heavy weight in there. And I think there's still more in there. It was the last time I saw him. I feel like there's a lot of stuff still stirring around. But I also felt like it gave me, I feel so much more powerful, so much more
Mhm.
powerful. And it was like, whether or not you believe this stuff or you don't, whatever that experience was, allowed me to let go of a part of me that was keeping myself small, that was keeping myself quiet, that didn't believe in my abilities. And what's here now is this this version of me that feels like I can just take up so much more space, that I have something
Yes.
to say, that I can help people. And that's only going to serve my business. And if you don't love what I have to say, don't listen.
Well, and then it just only serves, it's like what I posted yesterday from The War of Art by
Oh my
Stephen
gosh.
Pressfield, where it's like, we have to unlock our gifts, and you might have to go into past lives. You might have to go put your head face first into the fire of trauma, which I did this summer. And then when I did that this summer, facing a trauma that I had experienced in college for the first time consciously through different practices of different people that we study with, and it feels terrible. It's not something that you're excited to like go do, but you don't even have to put that much time and energy into it. A lot of it is deep imaginings and rewirings and feeling it fully and consciously letting it go,
Yeah.
because I was being blocked in like my romance and love column. Is something Lianna I've studied, is like, love, time, health, and money are the 4 quadrants of what humans always feel like they're in lack of. So I was feeling like a bit in lack of the love department. I've been so challenged there. So when I went and did with Layla Martin, who's like a tantric holistic sex coach, because it was a sexual trauma, and like you go there and you do it and it sucks, but then it unblocks you, and then things start to flow in. It's effortless, it's harmonious, and you might be like getting tested or whatever, but at least the tests are showing you that you're doing some work and moving some things around. So I'm really proud of you for doing that. It's not easy and it's not fun, and
I didn't even mean to.
but anyways, back to Stephen Pressfield's quote, which I brought up, is like, we have to do these things to unlock our gift, because the world needs your gift. You are given this divine, creative, completely unique self-expression, and you came here with this because we need it. And if the world has needed it more than ever, I mean, like, this is the time. It's time to show up. And if that's coaching people through health or writing or whatever it is that we're all coming forward wanting to do and needing to do, we have to trust that. And as you continue to put yourself out there and forward and your voice expands, we will get tested. And it's okay. And that's what it all comes back to, our love practice, making sure you're eating well, moving your body, and sleeping, and then connecting to people that you love. That social rituals are so important, even if it's on the phone in this time.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
that's my tangent to close that.
Yeah.
And what do we want to end with today? Anything in particular?
What is your favorite, most exciting moment about being in your new apartment in Dallas, or being in Dallas in general? Like, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
I live in a jungle.
Oh, it's true. You have a really nice view.
There's a tree that's right in front of me on my little terrace that we'll show y'all one day when we're out there, because I'm forcing Lianna to come stay with me for months on end.
It's true.
I don't care. Try to fly out next weekend. She's saying no. But I was having this moment with this tree that's in my front yard, and she's huge, and she has this huge canopy. And I just keep being like, you girl, like, we were meant to connect. Like, we have vibrations together. We need to love each other. So it feels like, I don't know. I like living in jungles. I like jungles and islands.
Yeah, we need nature. We need nature. We need nature.
And what's your favorite part, if you have to think of one thing off the top of your head, of being in New York City?
I think the tie between just like the energy. I do feel different here. It's like alive. And I know that I can't overdo it because I'm so sensitive to it and I'll just never rest.
Yeah.
Either that or the people. The New York collects the most amazing humans. And like,
really
every connection I've had, everyone I've seen, it's just like my heart expands and gets bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so much love. And that infusion of love makes you so healthy and happy and connected and creative. So it's like,
Infusion of
and the
love.
people, it's like, oh, I love being here, but I'm
I'm
going to
writing
be
this
so
down.
tired next week.
I know,
Already
because
so tired.
that New York drug. I
I
know.
know.
And then
My
I'm
favorite.
next to my family for the first time in 10 years. So it's like my dad just popped over to drop something off, and I'm like crying when he's leaving. I'm like, we could just do this now.
No, isn't it been like I've been living with my parents for like 3 months almost now, and it's like, oh, I get to see you every day, and you're part of my life.
So it's not like, oh, we have one weekend, it has to be perfect, let's not talk about it a little. It's
No,
like, no,
it's
we
like,
should
no, you're
be.
just my neighbors now. It's so beautiful.
Okay, well, I love you. I'm proud of you. Thank you for today, and thank you to all of our friends and family out there, and let's keep connected.
Yes, we love you.
Love medicine. Okay, love you.